Number one, Xbox and Nintendo clearly have something going on, and it's time that we try to get to the bottom of all of this. In the last number of months, Xbox executives have garnered a reputation for hiding objects in the background of their studios while making appearances in various streams, events, and so on. 2 months ago, we saw Phil Spencer with a Watch Dogs Legion statue, a Ludens statue, and a Nintendo Switch that it was not docked on his shelves. Since then, insiders have claimed that all the things on said shelf have had meaning. Now, Sarah Bond, corporate vice president of gaming ecosystem at Microsoft, developed the plot further. Appearing in Microsoft's GameStack event, there was once again shelves and, you guessed it, a Nintendo Switch. Yeah. Even more interesting is while Phil's Switch was located in a home setup, Sarah was in a studio space, thus making this a much more deliberate choice by the Xbox team. Now, we have a quote from Phil Spencer in October 27th of 2020 with Game Reactor about Switch coming to Xbox, Xbox Game Pass coming to Switch. Previously, in July, he had completely denied that this would ever happen. He wasn't really open to it. But I think, we'll talk about this in a little bit, as certain technology develops, it led us to this point here. So, Phil said, I think for us, it's all about priority and reaching more players. So we went to PC first after Xbox because there's just so many players there globally that don't own an Xbox that we could reach. We went to mobile next because there's 1 billion Android phones on the planet. It's significantly larger than any console base. We still have iOS to go after, which we'll talk about in a moment. We will come to iOS at some point. We're still working on some of our technology on PC for larger screens in terms of streaming and getting to iOS. And I think once we get through that, we look at what our other options are. There's smart TVs out there. There's Chromebooks out there. There's Fire TV out there. There's a lot of discussions we would want to have that we would prioritize based on where we would find the most new players that we could naturally bring content to. I love the Switch. I love PlayStation. Honestly, I think they've done an amazing job as being a part of this industry. I'm not sure that those are the next big set of users for us, but we could be open to that sort of discussion. So keep all of that in mind because now that sets us up to bring the news, which is that Xbox Game Pass of some kind could come to Nintendo Switch, at least possibly. So this week is the start of invites being sent out to select Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members for limited beta for Xbox Cloud Gaming is what they're calling it, on Windows 10 PCs and Apple phones/tablets via web browsers. They'll be sending more invites out regularly in all 22 supported countries until eventually opening things up for the entirety of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members in the coming months. Meanwhile, Xbox boss Phil Spencer took to Twitter to reaffirm that internal testing is still underway on server blade upgrades for Xbox Series architecture. Furthermore, he gave a nod to PC games, saying they will come, but they are focused on console games at the moment for streaming. This is important to note because now you can actually, say, for example, stream the older Gears games to your PC and be able to play them, even if you don't have a console. This is huge. I cannot overstate that, rather. And actually, the Supreme Legend Bobby B wrote in stating just that. Hey, Dukes. Now, this is interesting because we typically get questions. This is just a straight comment, and I think it sets us up well for the rest of our discussion here. As a mainly PC gamer with little interest in picking up either next-gen console at the moment, Microsoft bringing Game Pass streaming to PC officially is very exciting. This will open up the ability for me to play console-locked classics like Gears 2 and 3 on my PC, as well as try games without going through a lengthy download. This move will get me to upgrade my Game Pass subscription from PC only to Ultimate. Additionally, people with lower-end PCs will finally be able to take advantage of the service. Since new graphics cards are hard to come by, I feel this is a smart move on Microsoft's part and will only net them more subscriptions. Hope you have a medium well day. Cheers. Thank you for writing in, Bobby B. So I know that was a mouthful. I'm going to shut up now, but a lot there. So, Carrick, from the Switch rumors that are clearly intentionally being placed there by Microsoft. They want you to talk about it a little bit. Nintendo's account on Instagram, or it might have been Microsoft's account on Instagram, posting a Halo piece of art with Nintendo characters as like Cortana and Master Chief and the Arbiter and so on and so forth. Like clearly something is bubbling up here. And with Game Pass streaming becoming a thing now, we're seeing it on PC phones, we've seen it on Android already. We talked about the Smart TV app. Is it possible, because I think it is, and I'll state my reasoning after because I've talked for so long, is it possible that we see some type of streaming come into Nintendo Switch, perhaps to undercut that mobile market, which is going to creep up on them over time in the coming years. What do you make of all of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's I will come to Switch. I don't know. No leak, but there when Rainway announced how they got the browser version up and running with little to no all blah 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 blah, like all the stuff technically that's gone on. I just don't think people have no clue what's going to happen by November of this year, and it's the amounts of money and the amounts of companies working together. That's why I kept saying on Twitter, I'm like, dude, you don't understand. The world's not going to look the same. Like, if you expect it to look the same, you're going to be sorely unhappy, actually, because everybody, well, most companies have a distinctly new idea of how to move into the future. PlayStation, not so much. And I think we'll talk about that. But overall, especially a Nintendo, I've heard people be like, well, why would they want it? Well, first of all, money, number one. Number two, I don't think people realize that, especially Nintendo's already done streaming versions of their games in Japan. We already know that. They've already tested streaming on their own. With Microsoft probably footing the bill of everything, you suddenly have the Switch being able to be like, hey, man, if you buy a Switch, you get to play Nintendo games and you get to play Microsoft games. And the Nintendo games aren't available on your Android, stuff like that, which is a boon for owning a Switch. So,
right.
And it's a controller, by the way, which is much better than, motion touch and shit like that for controls. So you buy a Switch, you sort of get an all-in-one. And I think that's awesome, man. I think it makes, I just don't see anything about it not making sense. It's more along the lines of ego. Microsoft has none now, and I think people have always in the past seen a Microsoft with an ego. So no matter how much money they had, people wouldn't deal with them. Now, it feels to me like Phil is just like, hey, what do we need to get this working? And so other companies are like, well, you know what? If they're going to come at it in a respectful way, then let's just do this. And, why don't we all reap the whirlwind of unbelievable amounts of gamers?
Yeah, that's the thing is, I just feel it makes way too much sense for Nintendo. This is their way to leapfrog the tech challenges that, look, I know Nintendo's no tech company. I get that. They're not. But they are aware that there is a clear benefit here if they can say, let's get these next-gen games streaming on our platform. My biggest concern, and always will be, of course, the connection. The Switch Wi-Fi adapter is terrible. And they have an official USB to Ethernet port that you can plug in. Because I have one from, forgot the name of the company, but I have one, and you can't just take any third-party one. You have to have like an official Nintendo one, which is annoying because you look at something like what PlayStation did with the Vita and their memory card, and they're making, I think, the same mistake there, especially when I think it's going to be necessary. But the beauty of this in our heads is being able to take your Switch on the go and stream these games. Of course, my question that comes in is if the best way to play it is maybe with that Ethernet docking it, then at that point, wouldn't you just rather be playing on your Xbox? But maybe some people don't have access to these things. They may just have a Switch. So it is that casting of a wide net that we've been talking about for a while. And I think this is a natural way for Microsoft to start expanding without caving into what a lot of people view as, even though I don't think it truly is, their number one enemy, PlayStation, by going to Nintendo after you've gotten it on smart TVs and phones and everything.
It's not only that, Maddie. This allows Nintendo to roll out whatever version of Switch they want. And they are guaranteed that those Xbox games will work as long as the fucking thing has controllers. Like, there's a lot of... Look at their memory. Their memory sucks. You can get, like, one game on a Switch. You have to go out and buy an SD card. You have to go out and do all this stuff. And here, it's like, oh, the game just starts. Okay. And Microsoft isn't selling you Android phones. If Microsoft was worried about hardware platforms, they would be selling you, like, their own stuff. And you can tell that is not at all what they're actually interested in. And until people come to that, they're going to be in sore shape. Because each week, they're going to be surprised by some new thing that happens. And they're just going to be like, wow, it's gotta go back. Dude, you can't buy GPUs right now. You can't make a new system because they can't be made due to COVID. The companies know that, and they're looking at ulterior ways of doing things.
it just not only I talked about how it makes so much sense for Xbox, but it really does just make I'm sorry, Nintendo, but it really does make a lot of sense for Xbox because of course you can cut those production costs, but would you rather spend your money and resources developing and creating more Series X and Series S consoles, which haven't been mass produced yet,
and cost money
still
to
need
sell?
To get in a lot.
You don't make your full money back.
Exactly. Would you rather that or make we talked about the X Boy, if you will, the potential Microsoft handheld for $100 or something like that. I think it would be a complete Microsoft move to do both, to be like, we're going to do streaming on Switch and then we're going to do this our own tablet. I think that'd be cool because you want to cut out the middleman as much as possible, but I think Microsoft has so much money they don't care if Nintendo is that middleman because their goal is to, it's very obvious if this happens, which it looks like it's setting up to be, their goal is to, at all counts, accelerate the growth of Game Pass to probably 100 million members in any way, shape, or form they can make it happen. Like they're going, Microsoft, they probably, Phil Spencer, when he pitched, whatever he pitched to Satya Nadella, I can almost guarantee Satya was like, we need 100 million members. And Phil was like, I need you to allow me to make the moves that would get us there. Like, I will get us there. You just need to let me spend the money. And so I'm guaranteeing he's going back and forth each time, like, we need this game. There's people excited for this game. This one makes sense. Like the show, for example.
It's on Apple.
Like, that's a big blow.
It's on Apple, Maddie. Yeah. Apple is an OS. Mac is an OS. If there was any competition issues, Microsoft would not fight to be on that. They would release their own whatever. Dude, that's old style thinking, man. It's old style thinking. It only makes sense for Microsoft to be on every single thing. Anything that can possibly be on, you will see them on it. And I don't see them making a Microsoft TV. I don't see them. They're not losing money on the Xbox S. But I think the Xbox X, they certainly can't be making a ton per sale. And they can be losing because somebody buys something else because the Xbox X, Series X isn't in, let's say, a store somewhere. You can bet your ass Microsoft is like, let's just make sure the platforms are available. Our platforms, it's Apple. I don't know why people aren't more surprised by that because personally, Sony and Microsoft makes more sense to me because they're platform holders for consoles. I know that sounds weird, but just bear with me. Like Sean Layden. Somebody like that, I could see him and Phil high-fiving behind the scenes and saying, let's do something, right? But Apple and Microsoft, guys, I mean, Apple still has a hate hard-on for Microsoft buying Halo. Like, they still internally have issues. Like, there's still people who are, like, so anti-MS, and then MS people so anti-Apple, and here we are, looking down the barrel of them being on everything.
So, my next point of discussion I want us to hit on was a lot of people are viewing Xbox as just the pure giver here and receiving none. Do you view, what do you think of my speculation? All right, let's start off with that instead. What if at the same time this happens, we'll say Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has a little Xbox celebration. We'll say Master Chief is the next character, and you know how the Mii costumes get like all different side characters as outfits and whatnot. You add in, I don't know, you add in Marcus Phoenix and you show it on Kirby. You show all these different characters with costumes and skins, all part of this Xbox celebration. But here's the real hard to believe part. Nintendo gives a game to Xbox. So I'm saying we've heard the rumor of Master Chief Collection going to Nintendo. That's cool and all. Do you view, while Mario Kart is surging, they hand it over to Xbox? I mean, I know that's a very hard to imagine thing, and Nintendo, maybe they don't stand to, I put this in quotes, gain from that, but I think that there is something that's worth thinking about in the idea of what does Nintendo give back outside of receiving the streaming service of Game Pass?
Well, they're giving their platform, which is the number one sold platform. So I think that the only reason any of what you said would come true is if the money made sense. Is Nintendo open to it? We don't know. But if Nintendo's open enough to put the entire system on their platform, we would have to see. I personally don't know. Like, that's something that's always been weird because Microsoft owns Rare. So does Nintendo call up Microsoft and say, we want Rare to make a game? But Rare and Nintendo didn't like sort of split on the best of terms. So
yeah,
you don't know what's going on there. I don't know. I also don't know if Microsoft benefits as much from a Nintendo game as Microsoft benefits from being on every platform. I think that's all. That's all that.
That's fair.
That Phil wants, and it could happen. It's just money, man. Things are for sale that were never for sale before. That's what we said. Like if somebody shows up at your house and they're like, "Do you want to sell your house?" You go, "No," and they're like $1 million. You're like, "I'm out. I'm out." If they came and offered you $1 million for your parents' house, you'd figure a way to get your mom and dad out. Like you'd be like, "Dude, what are we doing? Like this makes no. We're set up for life." So I think that the money could certainly be something. I just don't know, Maddie, because I don't know what games I would feel benefit from being on the Xbox. Like that's the one difference between is like the IPs Nintendo owns. I don't see them benefiting and being unique versus an Xbox IP being unique on a handheld.
Okay. I've got one, and I'm not doing this to hit a weak spot. Mario and Rabbids on Game Pass.
You think Mario Rabbids benefits in some way from being on it? I just feel like they're selling it to a group that's shown that they don't care. They didn't care about Ori. They didn't care about Cuphead. Like, are they going to care? I mean, I care. Like, ignoring me, because I'd be there.
Yeah, that's why I want to make sure it's clear. I wasn't trying to, like, I know Carrick likes this one, you know?
No, I get it. I just don't know if that overlap is there. I mean, maybe it is. Like, we don't know, because we just don't know. Yeah. I mean, Microsoft also
I think that makes sense, because that's a Ubisoft published thing. Like, maybe you can work something out there.
And what if it was a game, Maddie, where it mixed them? Where it was Rabbids, Mario, and Sonic. Or not Sonic. Well, yeah, if they bought Sega or something. You know, but do you get my drift? What if it was like that? Then, dude, sky's the limit. And the thing is we all win. Gamers need to... It's changed. Like, guys, behind the scenes. Like, people need to have their butts prepped for completely weird shit happening. And to me, that would be... It would be something to celebrate, not something to be mad about. Everybody's mad about stuff. It's like, I'm mad that they're doing that. You're like, really? Because to me, this is just all about creation now. In fact, we're getting to a point now where a guy, Descenders, can say, I'm going to put out my system or my game on everything. So it's about the game. And if you're a gamer, man, and you try to bitch about this stuff, I'm going to have, like, you're going to have to do a really good job of explaining why you have a problem with more people playing some of these games. You're like, when I hear people complain about like PlayStation not having exclusive because it's on a PC, and I'm like, seriously, guys? Like, wouldn't you almost rather have, at least I would rather have, those developers get on every system? What would Days Gone look like if it was on every single system? Would we have a Days Gone 2? No. But you get my drift.
Good question, but yeah.
Probably not, but you get my drift.
Yeah. I just thought it was good food for thought because
be fun to see,
I feel
man.
like yet times are changing in a manner of speaking, and I know Nintendo will always make Nintendo stats of cash. Their games aren't struggling to sell, but that's why I picked out, maybe Mario Kart wasn't the best example, but I think like a Mario Rabbids could make sense.
Did Rabbids not do well, Maddie?
Rabbids did fine. Rabbids did well.
Do fine?
It's
I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it did fine. It was profitable for sure. It's just a matter of like more people. Like instead of having, I think they had like 2 million players or whatever. Imagine getting that to like 10 through Game Pass.
Exactly.
That'd be amazing. So
exactly. When iOS and Android, and iOS just announced that amazing tablet, the new, which admittedly I'm not an iPad, fan, but that tablet at that price, even though it's expensive for a thing, it's still amazing technology for the price. There's a difference between the two. And there's, oh my God, you have the power in your hands to do so many games that just we wouldn't have thought were possible 5 years ago with your Vita, with your POS Vita.
Yeah, right.
I'm just joking.
The Vita's about to be incredible again.
I know. Can you believe that? Do we have that in the news? That it came back?
No, not for this one in particular, but it's still alive, baby. It's still alive and kicking.
It was cool that Sony reversed that. Sony, like, that was ignoring all the other stupid stuff. It was smart.
Yeah, I agree. Got a little bit of the heat off of them for sure. Yeah, I was looking up Rainway just to see if there's anything we can add to that because I got their PR email about how how they're kind of teaming up with Xbox, and they're teaming up with like Intel now and stuff, and they're going beyond gaming because their cloud infrastructure sort of allows this low latency. Like they were talking about a predictive mouse cursor, which sort of like an algorithm like will predict where your mouse is going, so it feels like it's streaming that in real time when it's technically not. So it seems like I listened to an interview. Jeff Grubb did one with him, and it was really good. It's only about 20 minutes. It's on Spotify if anyone wants to listen. It's called How Games Make Money, but it was pretty good. And yeah, I gave that a listen if you want to learn more about Rainway in general. But that was kind of my big takeaway is they seem to be like a big player in this whole reason why Xbox is able to stream their games on iOS devices now. And it's because of Rainway. So pretty cool.